don't know about you guys, but I tried to watch One Piece several different times in the beginning, and I just couldn't. For some reason, it didn't stick. I don't know what it was, but it was something about it that it just didn't stick. I think it was in the beginning. I think it was a lot of like push from the outside of people like saying, "Oh, One Piece is the best. You should watch One Piece. One Piece is this. One Piece is that." And I didn't see the hype between the first because most anime fans, you give the show like 3 episodes and you're like, it's not that good. But since One Piece is so long, especially in the beginning, when I started, it was probably like, I think they were probably in the end of Whole Cake Island. At least the animation part was when I first started. So me at that point, it's like I was so far behind, and the amount of episodes already is daunting because it's so many episodes in One Piece. But after I watched Naruto Shippuden, I kind of just like, man, if I can watch Naruto Shippuden, I can definitely watch One Piece. So it just became one of those things where it's like, okay, you just gotta get through these episodes, and then the show probably gets better. And to my surprise, I was right. So after I got past like episode 12 and like didn't die from brain rot, I just kept going. And once I finally got to, in my opinion, some of the more fun episodes, like when Luffy finds Usopp, or when he finds Sanji, or when he meets Nami, or he meets Nami pretty early, but like when he meets Arlong and his gang and they fight, and meets Don Craig, and then they meet Mihawk, and they do this, they do that, and they go to the Grand Line. Like, to me, once you get past the first like arc, I think it's Romance Down or whatever that shit is, once you get past that, the show is pretty bearable. It's pretty nice. It's pretty easy to watch. And I mean, look at me now. I'm in fucking Wano now. But I loved it, man. And then I binged that I binged One Piece for a solid like 6 months, and it got me all the way to Dressrosa. But I took another break because I didn't realize how long Dressrosa was compared to like some of the other arcs, and it was just a lot at that point. And also I was moving. I was on a deployment, so like I didn't really feel like I had enough time to watch One Piece, so I just stopped. And getting back into it again, it just made me want to make this video, and I wanted to share my experience with you guys, especially on the first arc, and like try to get you to see why people like One Piece. And I'm not trying to sell it to you at all. Like, you can watch it or not. Like, I don't really care. But I just wanted you to see it from a perspective of somebody who was a One Piece hater in the beginning. So I'm just gonna go over the certain things that I want to talk about. If there are things I miss, please let me know in the comments. I know there's probably a lot of things I'm gonna cut out in this video. I don't want to make this video like 2 hours, 3 hours long. I just want to talk about some of the key moments in my opinion of the show. So hope you guys enjoy, and like, let's get into it. So for all you guys that don't know, make sure if you do one of these videos, you don't make the video take up the whole screen, because this part of the video actually got copyright struck, so I'm gonna have to redo it. But yeah, in the beginning, we first meet our main character, who's actually in this barrel, funny enough. He's taking a nap in the barrel. His name is Luffy, Monkey D. Luffy to be exact. And he's on board Alvida's ship. And this is also when we first meet Kobe, who in the beginning is pretty annoying, and I don't like Kobe in the beginning, but he actually grows on you in the end. But we meet our first antagonist, Luffy, who hitched a ride in this barrel after his little makeshift boat got destroyed. So yeah, here's our first meeting of Luffy, our goofy main character. And yeah, in the beginning, pretty interesting to see Luffy as depicted as he is. He has a scar on his left cheek, and he doesn't have the scar on his chest yet, which is pretty cool to see it going back and forth. And he has a straw hat. And we meet Kobe, and we learn about Kobe's backstory and how he got into business with Alvida. And that was pretty much it. Honestly, in my opinion, I don't really care about this part of the story. I mean, it's the beginning of the story, but this episode was not the episode that hooked me into One Piece. I did not give up One Piece after watching this. I kept watching it, but this wasn't the episode. So this was a little introduction to the characters in the beginning, and then we'll move on to more important people, more important arcs, and more important fights that I think that are most important for people that like this arc. And I'm sure you guys probably have other opinions, but you know, leave your comments down below and let me know. But yeah, that's kind of what I think about the beginning of the show. And what's not to like about the background story of our boy Luffy? As many of you guys know, in the beginning, a group of pirates was making fun of Luffy's like, I guess I want to say mentor, but I want to say more. He was like Louis' biggest influencer of becoming a pirate, Shanks' crew. So Shanks' crew is getting made fun of, and Luffy, and then hears this at a bar, and Luffy decides that he wants to, you know, like stand up for Shanks because he wants to be a pirate just like Shanks. He thinks Shanks is fucking cool as shit. But unfortunately for Luffy, later on he ends up eating the Gomu Gomu no fruit, I want to say it is. Actually, the Gomu Gomu no Miya fruit, which, if you don't know, in the beginning, freaking devil fruits make you lose your ability to swim, and Luffy doesn't know that. So anyway, Luffy becomes pretty much a rubber man, is what they call him in the beginning. And this is our first like interaction with him. The guys throw him in the ocean, and guess who comes to save him? None other than, well, that's the guy who threw him in the ocean. He gets eaten by this fucking super fucking sea eel or whatever it is. And yeah, he's coming to kill Luffy now because Luffy can't swim because he ate the freaking devil fruit. And pops in our boy Redhead Shanks. And Redhead Shanks, like, that's all I can say about Shanks. Shanks is like one of the coolest characters. Him and his pirate crew are actually pretty cool. This in the beginning makes the show interesting. Like, this part makes it interesting, but some of the smaller parts, where they're just like walking around talking and bullshitting, doesn't really make the show that interesting. And for me, it was kind of a turnoff in most aspects of it, but it was fun. Like, watching this and seeing this for the first time is also cool. And then you get to see like what happens when he saves him, because Shanks didn't eat a devil fruit so he can swim, but Shanks has immense power, and we find that out later on, especially in this scene right here, where Shanks pretty much, I don't know if it's confirmed, but for me, that was the first time us seeing Conqueror's Haki, especially based off of the reaction of this guy's face, this eel, who was definitely not scared of him a few seconds ago. Conqueror's Haki is something that we talk about, yeah, especially with Ai. Like, to me, that was like the first boom, like Conqueror's Haki. Like, this to me is what the first Conqueror's Haki is shown. I don't know if that's true or not, but in my opinion, based off of what I know now, like, this makes total sense, like that he just used Conqueror's Haki. But while saving Luffy, unfortunately, something happens to our boy Shanks. He loses his arm, and he tells Luffy it's not a big deal, especially in this scene. Like, Luffy's crying. He said he's thankful that Shanks, you know, saved him, and Shanks was really happy that Luffy stood up for his crew because he didn't have to do that. Obviously he didn't, and he did anyway, which is cool. And he was like, hey, you fought for us. And Luffy's crying, and he's like, hey man, like, you're a man, don't cry. Like, what are you crying for? But he's like, hey Shanks, like, you lost your arm. And he did. He lost his fucking arm saving Luffy. And it's crazy because I always wonder, especially seeing Shanks now, like, what he would be like if he never lost his arm. Like, how much more powerful would he be without losing his arm? But he's still fucking pretty OP in my opinion. So, but yeah, that's our first interaction with Shanks. Our little flashback with Luffy and how he got his dream to become a pirate. And then we learn there's other people that actually influence his decision, like his brothers, which you'll learn about more in the coming parts. So you got Sabo, and then you got Ace, and then yeah, you'll learn more about that. And then you'll learn about his grandpa Garp, who is actually a Marine. He's not even a freaking pirate. And then his dad, which I also talk about in a little bit in this video, but not that much. But yeah, I think this show is in the beginning kind of gives you something to look forward to seeing, but not much. Like it's not much to grab here. Yeah, this is a flashback, so like just a little bit of storytelling, but yeah, I think the show starts off pretty interesting. And then everybody's favorite three-sword fucking swordsman, Mr. Zoro himself. And this is like the first time we actually see Luffy meet Zoro, which is pretty cool. Zoro, loudmouth, loves to fucking complain. Obviously Kobe's still here, but it's pretty cool seeing Zoro in the beginning. He's tied up because he's a wanted man for killing somebody in the beginning of the show, which is also depicted pretty well in the Netflix series. I'm not here to tell you to watch the Netflix series because they cut out a lot, but if you did want to watch a really quick version of the Arlong fight and the East Blue arc, then yeah, it's 8 episodes. It's pretty quick. Maybe I think it's like 45 minutes an episode, if that. So you learn a little bit. They cut out a lot of things, but like some of the stuff is stuff that I didn't like in the anime. So if that's more your speed, then I would probably tell you to recommend that. But also you can also watch this show with the filler guy. But like, yeah, he meets Zoro, and I just like Zoro as a character. Like, just a badass. Like, he has 3 swords. And he's not afraid of anything. In this scene, Luffy takes the fucking bullets for him, and he thinks that Luffy's dead, but Luffy just, like I said in the beginning, Luffy's a rubber man, dog. Like, you're not gonna kill Luffy with freaking bullets. Yeah, and they finally escape. They escape this, and Zoro starts to fight for Luffy, and it's cool. In the beginning, they show this fight also in the Netflix anime, but to me, this is the beginning. So it's the beginning of their adventure. This is the beginning of their friendship, and it's probably one of the coolest friendships you'll see in anime, other than, I want to say, Naruto and Sasuke, maybe. Maybe Yusuke and Kuwabara is also a cool friendship to think about, like how they meet and how they become friends. They do everything together in the end. But yeah, like this is the start of something pretty cool in my opinion. And here we meet one of the other funnier characters in the show, in my opinion. It's Buggy. Buggy actually becomes really important later on in the series. He's actually pretty prominent. He's in Impel Down, and obviously he's in the later arcs. But yeah, Buggy's pretty funny. This was a pretty funny fight in my opinion, Luffy kicking him in the nuts. And it was all because Nami and Luffy stole his treasure, and Buggy didn't like that. So eventually, throughout this, they beat Buggy. Obviously, Buggy's power is pretty cool. He can split his whole body apart into smaller pieces, which is sick. And he hates that people talk about his red nose when he looks like a freaking clown. But yeah, also the cool thing is Buggy is actually a part, what we find out later is Buggy was also a part of Rogers's crew with Shanks and a lot of other people that are prominent throughout the show. But yeah, I really enjoyed this part. This was actually one of the more fun fights in One Piece, especially in the beginning. It just took a long time to get there. I think this is like episode 26 or episode 28 or something like that, but it took a long time to get here to actually have some fun. So I think yeah, I think it gets better throughout the series, and like we'll move on to the next character that I think is pretty important for you guys to know. Yeah, and then we also meet Nami in the first episode, I believe, or one of the first episodes. But I want to talk about Usopp. I think Usopp's like a hilarious character. We meet Usopp when Zoro and Nami leave the first island in order to try to find the Grand Line. And yeah, they meet Usopp, who is the town liar who lies about everything. His story is pretty whatever. There's some cool fights in this. But I really didn't like Usopp in the beginning. I like him now a lot more, obviously, because he's grown on me. But like in the beginning, I was not a huge Usopp fan. He was just a character with a long nose that was kind of annoying. Like he was a crybaby. In this part of the series, he's a liar. He lies a lot. And he just, I don't know, he just used a slingshot. So to me, it's just like, bro, this dude sucks. Like, but we found out that Usopp's dad is also on Shanks' crew, which is pretty cool connection. And then once Luffy helps Usopp and the girl he loves, he decides to join the crew, which to me is pretty sick. But also, like, you know, once the characters start, or once the Straw Hats actually start to come together, this show becomes really cool. These moments you look past, especially like Usopp. Like, I didn't like him. Like I said, didn't like him in the beginning. I like him a lot more now. He's funnier now than he was then, because to me, you got two badasses like Zoro and fucking Luffy, and then you got a crybaby who's literally, look at him, he's Usopp. In the beginning, then you're like, maybe I don't want to watch this. Maybe I don't. Maybe it's not that good of a show. But yeah, that's my little take on Usopp. I mean, a lot of people like Usopp. I was just not one of them in the beginning, and that was kind of the reason that kind of a little bit turned me off about Usopp. But hey, he gets better. He definitely gets better. Now let's talk about one of my favorite characters. Actually, probably my favorite character in the show. Actually, the sous chef, my boy Sanji. I have been a Sanji fan since the first interaction with Sanji. Actually, Sanji is hilarious in my opinion. His love for women is just freaking hilarious. Like, my man is just obsessed, and I think that is hilarious aspect of the show. And yeah, I really enjoyed Sanji's arcs. I actually have a Sanji tattoo. I'll probably try to show you guys in the clip, but I actually have a Sanji tattoo. Can't really see it. I mean, you can see it a little bit, but like, you can't really see it from here, but I'll show you guys a better picture in a second. But yeah, Sanji was like one of my favorite characters in One Piece, especially after the scene where the dude's like trying to show off in front of the girl, like, hey, I know what type of wine this is. This shit's fire, ain't it? And then Sanji's like, nah, you're wrong. Like, literally, my man says you're wrong and tells that man to eat his soup, which is hilarious. Like, and then my boy's embarrassed, which is hilarious as well, because hey man, when you out with a baddie, you're not trying to be embarrassed by nobody who, you know, nobody wants to be embarrassed in front of the baddie. He's like, yeah, I'm the freaking sous chef. By the way, all the waiters quit yesterday. Crazy shit. This is our first introduction to Sanji. We don't learn much. We learned a little bit about his backstory. Sanji's backstory is actually pretty crazy, especially when you get to Whole Cake Island. You learn even more about his backstory. You're like, damn. Like, I thought he was annoying when he was a little kid, and he was with his father, the actual chef of this restaurant. But yeah, no, Sanji's pretty lit. Like, he learns so many different things. His character does develop in certain ways, but he also stays the same in a lot of other ways, like his love for women, and it's like the hard eyes never go away, if you know what I'm talking about. Like, none of that shit changes, and I love that he just always stays the same. But he's a very serious guy when it comes to like his crew and helping them get, except for Zoro. I mean, he likes Zoro, but like, him and Zoro have this like rivalry thing, so they can't like each other, but they like each other. But you'll see that more when you watch the show and you actually understand the dynamic of the crew, and those two are always going at each other's throat, especially when Sanji hears about Zoro's new bounty and it's higher than his, and then he finally finds out that his bounty is like 10 million higher than his, so he's like, yeah, I can't wait to tell Zoro this. But yeah, I love it, especially like their dynamic is pretty fun, especially when Sanji's first bounty picture is posted, and it's fucking hilarious. It's him with his face all beat up, and they arrest some other guy. But yeah, no, it's I love Sanji. At the end of the day, Sanji's one of my favorite characters. One of the cooler fights I want to say that I've seen in One Piece in the beginning is probably the Don Krieg fight, Luffy versus Don Krieg. Pretty cool because he gives Luffy a run for his money, and also he's attacking the restaurant where Sanji works at. I think it's shown in the Netflix show as well a little bit, but this is pretty cool. You get to see Luffy fight for his friends and protect them, and it was pretty sick. I like this aspect of the show a lot. and you kind of think Luffy's gonna, at some point you do think Luffy's gonna lose, and then he doesn't. He just finds a way, and that's my favorite thing about Luffy, is somehow, some way he finds a way to win, even when the odds are stacked against my man. Like, my man actually just wins. Like, he can solo pretty much anybody's universe. Yeah, I said it. He can solo your universe, dog. But yeah, Sanji's trying to protect the restaurant and the guys because of Don Craig. And yeah, Luffy has a bounty on his head, so he's a fucking pirate. He's wanted. But yeah, it's pretty cool. I like this fight. Not the best fight in the series, in the early fight. Obviously that goes to Arlong versus Luffy, which is pretty fun to watch, which we'll talk about here in a second. But you know, this is just something pretty cool because obviously, like I told you in the beginning, Luffy ate the Gomu Gomu no Miya fruit, which made him a rubber man. And once he gets hit by his iron net, you think, oh shit, like Don Krieg's like, well, I can swim, you can't, so I'm gonna fucking put you in the ocean. Yeah, Luffy is one of the more creative main characters in anime, and I just like his creativity because you would think the same thing I'm thinking, like, damn, you're rubber man, like, shouldn't you be able to like get out of this? Like, shouldn't you be able to shrink or something? But Luffy figures out a way to win, per usual. And what he does is he puts his arms through the net holes like he can, and he swings this man to the other side, which is sick. Like, where is it? Yeet. And this is where Sanji's like, this is before Sanji even says he's joining the crew, so he's just amazed that this guy is just fighting for him in this restaurant like this, and he's just a stranger. But that's just how Luffy is. Luffy just likes to help people. So here he is, and he wanted Sanji as a chef anyway because he tastes the food. So here he is, and he slams Don Craig. W. Just a W move here, bro. Like, just W. Boom. And then Luffy falls into the ocean. Unfortunately, Sanji goes and saves him, which is pretty cool. And starts their journey. But before they get to leave, certain somebody decides to pop their head through, and that's when we get the Zoro fight, which is pretty sick. Yep, here it is. And pops in Mihawk versus Zoro. And yeah, this is one of the coolest fights in the beginning. I won't say coolest, but I would say more, it has more future repercussions than it does than most fights do, in my opinion. So this one is pretty cool, especially if you know what happens after the Sabo Odi arc. This is actually pretty sick when they introduce Mihawk, and Mihawk pulls out this little baby dagger, and Zoro's like, yeah, like, I want to be the best, and you're the best swordsman in the world, and I want to beat you. And he's like, hey, like, I'm not gonna pull out my big sword to kill a rabbit, you know, like, you're not gonna fucking pull out a fucking a 9mm to fucking shoot an ant. Like, you know, it's one of those analogies, which is pretty funny. And Zoro's like, stop making fun of me. And he's so surprised in this moment when Mihawk is holding him back with what some would say is like a butter knife. Like, obviously it's strong in the Wooder's hand, so it's pretty strong. And you can see Zoro's like, he can't even move them. Like, what the fuck is he doing? Like, yeah, he's just that strong. And you see him just fighting him back with one little butter knife, and Zoro's using 3 swords at this point, which is pretty insane because it's freaking Zoro and he's using 3 swords. 3-sword technique, which is pretty interesting to see Zoro in the beginning because his moves like grow and are so much cooler in the later series and later shows. But like, yeah, it's one of my favorites. And here he is, gets a little mini explosion in the back, and Mihawk's literally just boring with my man, and then he chops him in the back of the head. Zoro almost loses consciousness. But yeah, and then here's when it starts to go downhill. Zoro obviously loses this fight. He wasn't ready. This guy's literally the strongest swordsman in the world, and he asks him to state his name. Tells him he's rolling over Zoro, and he says, "Thank you for telling me your name," and then he strikes him. And one of the coolest scenes is after the strike, and he says, here it is, scars in the back. So respectful, man. Like, I respect the shit out of Zoro for that. And yeah, let's get on to the next. So we're gonna fast forward because like I said, I wasn't gonna touch on every single thing in this video of One Piece, or especially the East Blue, because then this video would be like 2 hours long. But what happens is we find out how Nami is actually a part of the Arlong pilots. If you don't know Arlong, he's a fishman, and he's pretty much like running the island that Nami and her family have lived on for the last like pretty much her whole life. And her adoptive mother and her sister and her family is just affected by this guy and what they've done to the fish, or to the island that Nami is from. And it's pretty sad. They killed Nami's mom, and she resents them for it, and she's like a navigator for them. So once she was in Loguetown arc, she's over there trying to find and steal things to pay their debt, because they're trying to pay Arlong to leave, because he said if they paid a certain amount of money that he'd leave, which obviously was a fucking lie. And she realizes that her town, and they can't do anything, and they're helpless, and she needs help. But she tells Luffy the story because she obviously betrayed Luffy, but Luffy knows why he was betrayed because he knows the stories. And it was actually one of the main reasons I kept watching. He stabbed herself, which was pretty interesting, because she has the freaking Arlong pilot fucking symbol on her arm, which is cool because she later gets it changed. And then Luffy sees her stabbing herself and he stops her, which obviously our boy Luffy is that guy. So he stops her and he's like, I don't know what happened, but for the past 8 years, this island is, yeah, I don't know. And then Nami's crying and she says, it's none of your business. And she's right. It's not none of Luffy's business, but, and she also told him to leave, but if you know Luffy, he doesn't leave his friends behind. And yeah, she throws this fucking sand at Luffy, telling him to go away, and Luffy doesn't. And pretty much he tells her, just ask for my help. And look at her, she's just fucking sad, crying. She has literally nowhere else to go and nowhere else to do. So my girl finally looks at Luffy and says, help me, which is so fucking sick, because I love the callbacks to this in later arcs where Luffy won't help you just because he can see you need help. He wants you to let go of your pride and let go of yourself and ask him for help, because that's when you're truly vulnerable. That's when you truly need help, because, you know, if he just steps in, you can say you never needed him, and he doesn't like that. So I really like this. I love when he does that to Momonosuke later on in the arc too, and he does that to a few other people. I think when he helps Phoebe, he does something very similar as well. But yeah, he asks her to help him, and he does one of the coolest things is he gives her the hat, and then she has a reminder how important this hat is to Luffy. Yeah, because he told her in the beginning, don't touch my treasure, aka don't touch my hat, and he gives her the hat, which is about, like, is a symbolism that she's very important to him. And walks in one of the coolest scenes in this arc, especially the Arlong arc, right here, where my boys are literally ready for action. Like, my boys are ready for action. Nami's crying, and we meet these two pirates here. I think they're pirates. I don't remember their names, to be honest with you. It was pretty early on, and I actually didn't like Google their names after this. But yeah, they're they went to go fight Arlong for Nami, sorry, Arlong. They went to go fight Arlong for Nami, and yeah, they got their asses beat. So, hearing the stories about Nami, the townspeople went to go walk up on Arlong and his crew, and these guys are sitting at the door, and they're like, "Hey, we tried, we were close, but we lost. We know y'all gonna lose, so we not gonna let y'all in. We waiting for this one man who we know gonna whoop his ass, and it's not you guys. So we want you guys to sit out here and wait for that man to come." And they're like, the townspeople are like, "What the hell are you talking about? Like, we ain't got nobody like that in the city. Like, he ain't like that. Like, he ain't got that type of drip. You know what I'm saying?" But they tell him, "Big sis Nami, blah 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 blah," and then you see these boys walking down the street. They walking down because they about to go get active, like, and they know, here they come. And the townspeople are like, "Who the fuck are these guys? Like, who are these? Like, we don't know these dudes." Like, say, "Hey man, if Luffy and his crew can't handle this, y'all might as well leave the island, because shit, ain't nobody gonna be able to handle this." When they also kind of foreshadow some cool things, is like, hey, like, Luffy and his crew are pretty strong, and they can also what do you call it? They can also take down some of the other guys that are wreaking havoc in the East Blue, as well as on the Grand Line. So it's also pretty cool to see this foreshadowing. It's really nice, man. I really liked this part of the show. This is actually where it picks up. I always tell people you gotta watch One Piece past like episode 20, in my opinion, because once you get past some of the boring stuff, like, it gets really cool, really fun, really fast. And yeah, our guys get in there and they fight all of Orlon's guys, and they win, obviously. But like I said, I'm only gonna touch on certain fights. If you want to see some of the other fights, you can watch, fucking show yourself. I don't want to like ruin it for people that haven't seen it, you know. So we get to one of the cooler parts of this arc, and it's our boy Luffy versus Arlong, and this is the end of the fight. But for copyright reasons, I didn't want to like show you all of it because I didn't want my video to take down. So I'll try to show you the ending of the fight. This part, pretty much Luffy and Arlong has been fighting for a long time, as you can tell with all the dirt and the scratches on both of them. Arlong just thinks that Luffy's just such a pushover, and he wasn't. He learns that the hard way, especially after he bites Arlong, or he bites Luffy, and Luffy breaks his freaking face, or his nose, sorry. And then he finds out the room where Arlong used to keep Nami captive to make her draw the freaking maps, because she has a really good memory and she's really good with maps. That's why she's the navigator for those guys. And yeah, and then he just said he's gonna destroy the room, which is pretty cool. And this is when he does the famous kick. And yeah, and he's like, "Yeah, you guys are inferior beings because you're not fishmen, blah 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 blah. You can never take Arlong or Arlong Park because you guys are just inferior because you're freaking humans." And yeah, and Luffy hits him with the fucking battle axe, and pretty much that's how he wins the fight. Like, it's pretty simple, pretty easy, but he destroys the building, which is actually depicted pretty well in the Netflix series. I know I keep referencing the Netflix series, but like, other than the anime, it's the only other freaking thing I've seen. I haven't read any of the manga for One Piece, so but yeah, it's pretty interesting, pretty cool. As you can see, everybody's surprised as hell that he just did that. But yeah, and then he lets off a scream. You can see the Arlong flag fall down, and that is pretty much the end of the Arlong versus Luffy fight, which is pretty sick. And then I want to get into some other characters that are also introduced in this before in the video, just real quick. So before our boy gets to the Grand Line, he has to go through the city, and we meet Smoker I think way before this, probably a few episodes before this. Smoker's a captain in the Marines, and yeah, Smoker's looking for Luffy. He's a wanted man, and pops in our boy Dragon, who, I mean, at the end of the day, he had no reason to do this, which is why Smoker asked him. He's like, "Hey, why'd you do this?" We later learn why he did it, but he gives him a bullshit, I won't say bullshit excuse, but he gives him an answer like, hey man, like, he's like, hey, like, why are you intervening? And Smoker, very confused. Smoker also has a smoke fruit, so pretty cool. He also he's one of the tougher opponents in the beginning for Luffy to fight, but he learns how to beat him later on. But yeah, Dragon comes to help him. Dragon is the leader of the Revolutionary Army. We find out later on in the series. He's also Luffy's dad, which is also pretty cool. So I didn't know that in the beginning, so I'm just like, why is this random guy fucking saving Luffy? Didn't make any sense, because Smoker had him dead to rights. Like, if you see him, like, he has Luffy dead to rights. Like, there's no way he's getting out of this. And Dragon just comes to help him, and Dragon's like, man, the government wants your head. Why are you saving this guy? And then he's like, I think you should just, you know, let every man start his journey. And then pretty much he's yelling at the top of the roof, like, it's your decision. You should go and do what you want and make your own dreams come true. And then they're like, why did you help that man, Dragon? Like, it doesn't make sense. But he's like, yeah, every man shouldn't be. He says, what reason would there be to interfere with a man's departure? Which is facts. But we also learn later on that Luffy is probably one of the greatest pirates ever. And if they would have stopped him now, this series would have probably ended a long time ago. But I think this is a really cool interaction in the beginning, especially we get to meet Dragon. We get to meet a lot of different other cool characters. And yeah, I really enjoyed the East Blue, because this is the end of the East Blue, and it starts the Grand Line quest where they kind of go get through the Grand Line, which is a pretty cool thing. You get to see the well, you get to meet a lot of different characters that are kind of important later on, that are a part of Goldie Rogers' crew, or his old crew. Goldie Rogers obviously is the original king of the pirates, and he found the One Piece, and like, it's pretty cool. I think you guys should watch One Piece if you have the time. I know it's a lot of episodes, but you can also watch it with a filler list. You can skip some of the filler that you don't want to watch. Not that much filler in One Piece actually, but like, there is a bit. But you can always skip those episodes if you don't want to watch them. So this is my first type of One Piece video. I'm trying to find out the best way to do these videos. So if you guys have any advice or any thoughts, please leave a comment down below and let me know what you think. I really enjoy One Piece and making anime videos. Obviously, that's my niche. I also like gaming videos, but you guys also know. So if you guys enjoy this video, please like the video. This video is gonna take me a long time to make. I have to cut out a lot of things that I don't want you guys to see. But I hope you guys enjoy it. I hope you guys come back. Let me know if you want me to continue making more of these videos, and if you want to hear more of my thoughts on One Piece, or just any anime in general. If you like a specific type of anime and you want to hear me talk about that anime, then let me know in the comments down below, and I'll let you know if I watched it and if I'll potentially make a video on it. But yeah, man, I hope you guys enjoy, and I'll see you guys on the next one, man. As always, peace and love.